Okay, we're back for session 2 or recording number 2 in week 1 of our graduate school course in cultural policy, the seminar for cultural policy. I wanted to first quickly show you that the video is correct. Oh, where did it go? The video is correct for
안녕하세요. 디지털
the
생활제한
link
유장입니다. 오늘 저희가 화상회의 그리고 실시간 온라인 강의로 유명한
talking about
줌이라고
how
하는
to
프로그램을
use
알아보도록
Zoom,
하겠습니다.
how to
화상회의에
set up your
실시간으로
Zoom.
강의하는 것들을
Okay.
잡히가 있어요.
It
저는
will give you all the
구글로
advice you
로그인이 되어 있기
need.
때문에 자, 로그인이
So we can
되셨다면
close that. The link is correct. Okay, let's just close that. So we can talk about our technology in more specifics. Now, as I mentioned in the first recording, the CTL, the Gyosu Hakusub system, the Gyosu Gyoyuk system, is the starting point for our class. For the recorded classes, for the live classes, doesn't matter, classroom or online, the Gyosu Hakusub system is our starting point. We do not use a textbook in my class, so you need to do your readings from this system. You will watch your recorded videos through the system to get your attendance credit. Yes, the recordings are on my Gmail, my YouTube account, which uses my Gmail email address, and that's the same as my KMU front. It's RJDICKEY. RJDICKEY KMU.ac.kr is my email address for the university, but my YouTube address will be RJDICKEY or Robert Dickey, both ones you can find. So you can find the videos there, but it's better to watch through the CTL. Also, you'll find all of our readings on the CTL. That could be a link to another website. That could be a PDF file. Or it could be an MS Word document. It could be HWP, but probably not. But I can read HWP. Don't be shy with HWP. But I don't usually upload HWP. The CTL is where you can see and share lecture notes. That could be the notes that I put up, and it can be the notes that you take and you share. Here's one piece of information. In my classes, in the classroom, one student is responsible to take official notes. Every week that will change a different person. That person takes official notes and puts online. Everyone can see that. Everyone can look at their own notes and compare. Then when we start the next live class, the beginning of class is to check the notes from before. That way we all know everything. We all know what happened before. We can all compare. So we will share lecture notes that way. It's a team. Everybody works together. Everybody learns together. We teach each other. Every year I learn something in my graduate class from my graduate students. Of course, you read Korean much better than me. So you can find information about Korea better than me. And you can share. And you can choose your special interest and explore your special interest more. And maybe your special interest from this class will become your 석사 논문 or even your 박사 논문. So we use the CTL to see and share lecture notes. If you have an official report, if you are making a presentation in my class, you will upload your report into the CTL so that everyone can see it. And finally, but most important maybe, you go to the CTL to get updates. What's happening? What is our schedule for the next class? It will be there. Are we having a face-to-face class? Are we having a live chat? Are we having a recording? Do we have an extra class on Wednesday? That information, that's our communication system. Now there is one more thing that I didn't put here. I'm going to write in now. And that is Kakao. Some people are going to choose to use the Kakao system. And that's okay too. I don't like that color. Let's choose a better color. Something a little more closer to orange. I want more orange. More orange, please. Yuck. Almost. What here? There we go. Something like that. Maybe. Get that out of the way. Some people will choose to use Kakao. And that's okay too. For our quick updates, the unofficial updates, the unofficial sharing. Quick and easy way to tell people, hey, check the Kakao, check the CTL for this, or let's have our class at the Bulgogi Jeep. Maybe possible. Okay, still class, still study. We'll decide these things. Okay, so we can also use Kakao as a support, but it's not official. Technologies. More technologies. If we use Zoom, which is maybe the easiest for me because I'm already using it, there's a few key points. You want to install Zoom before the first time you use it. Okay, it has an extra app. It works fine in Windows. It works fine in Macintosh. It works best with a computer with a webcam. And you can see I made a little circle there for a webcam. But some students won't have a webcam. My undergraduate students, some don't. You don't have to have a webcam. But when you are talking with your classmates, it will be very nice if you have a webcam. Ladies, I don't care if you wear makeup. Doesn't matter to me. It's a class, not society. It's a culture class. Maybe some days I'll wear my cap. It's not quite straight. The light's strange, so some days I'll wear my cap. Maybe that helps you because it's very shiny in my room. You get shine on my head, right? Maybe that cap is better. So anyway, it's best if you use a real computer. You can use your smartphone, and my phone is very big. I have a 8-inch Samsung Galaxy Tab. And it's that big. Which makes it easier. But the problem is the Android operating system has less facilities, less choices doesn't have all the tools. And the same with an iPad. The iPad works and has a camera, but it has less options for things to do. So a notebook computer or a desktop computer with a camera is your best choice. Probably an earphone is a good choice. Now, full-sized earphone with a microphone will give you the best audio and your classmates will hear you the best. But if you're in a very quiet place, you don't need that. If you're in a very quiet place, you could use earbuds. And in my classes where I use a lot of audio, I use an earbud, and I just use one. So I can't, I just use one, so that I can hear audio with no echo. Because I don't use a headphone mic. I don't use the mic on the phone system, and this one doesn't even have it. I use the mic in my webcam, which is not perfect. But when I'm recording, it's no problem. Because I'm recording in my home in a quiet room, and my family knows that I'm recording, so it's pretty quiet. But if I am using Zoom, where other students can be talking, then I usually use a headphone or at least earbuds with a mic. Alright, so Zoom works best with a computer and a webcam. And of course, it needs a mic, and that could be built into the webcam. Many computers have a mic built into the webcam or built in on the sides or something. Needs a mic so that we can hear you talking. You want to take notes. You want to take paper notes. There will be some kind of test in this class, and we don't have a book. And my test is not just from the reading, but is from the discussions in the class. What I say and what your classmates say. So you want to take notes. Yes, you can take notes on your computer while you are streaming in Zoom. You can use your computer while you're in the physical classroom. You can use your computer while you are listening to a recording. But it's clumsy. It's hard to do. Much safer to take notes on paper. Or, if you're really talented, maybe you take notes on your tablet or your iPad or even your smartphone, and you take notes while class is going on. Now remember, every week someone will be responsible to take notes in the class and to share on the 자유게시판. And if it's your turn and you know, we agree it's your turn, and then you don't do it, you lose points because you damage your classmates. We all work together. As I mentioned, I do my work in a quiet space. It works much better. If it's noisy and you wear a headphone and a mic, that will probably solve the problem, but still you could be distracted. I know that many of us have children or a spouse, a wife, a husband, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, and so we don't always have perfect privacy and perfect quiet. Do the best you can. Quiet is especially important in a Zoom because anything you hear in your room, probably other people also hear. So 7 people means 7 times noise. Okay. And as I mentioned, there's a quick guide on the CTL for using Zoom. It's in Korean. Still more technology. the rule for having face-to-face classes on campus is that we have to follow some safety rules. When you walk into the building, there will be a temperature check. Now, as I know, the school has been using the kind of camera system, so it doesn't go in your ear or in your mouth or go in somewhere. We say that's non-invasive. Invasive is when it goes inside, in your ear, or in your mouth, or in your... But there's a temperature check before you enter the building. If your temperature is high, they won't let you in. Now, that's not a very good test because you could have a cold or something else to get a fever, but that's the first rule. The second rule is we have to maintain social distancing of 2 meters. That means our chairs have to be spaced apart. 2 meters is basically my hand reaching out and your hand reaching out, and if our fingers touch, we're too close. Even me, I have monkey arms. My arms are really long. But still, more than fingertip to fingertip. And we have only a few students and we have a good sized room, so this is not a big problem. We must wear facial masks in the classroom. And you cannot take it off to talk. But the fact is, you can wear a facial mask and talk, and it's a little bit inconvenient, but it doesn't really affect speaking. We see so many cases, especially politicians. It's terrible. The politicians go out in public and they start talking like this, and that does no good. When you're talking is when viruses are coming out. If you have the virus, talking is a perfect case. You don't have to sneeze. You don't have to cough. Just talking. So when you talk, keep your mask on. In the classroom, we all, and not just cover the face and not the nose, because the virus comes out the nose. So you have to cover the nose and the mouth. In the classroom, we have to wear facial masks. But I'm home, so I don't have to. And we expect good hand sanitation. The guidelines for hand sanitation are wash your hands often with soap for 30 seconds, but also to use the sanitizer, which could be a spray or it could be the liquid, and rub it into all parts of your hand, between your fingers, under your thumb, around the front, and both hands the same way. One big squirt is probably just enough. Okay? And the liquid, the gel, is usually aloe or something like that, so it's good for your skin. So, classroom safety rule: temperature test when you walk in the building, social distancing of at least 2 meters all the time, facial mask all the time, hand sanitation. There's one more thing we have to do. We have to keep a register in the class. Each class, we have to have each person's name and phone number. That's my job, to bring the register. Then I have to turn that register into school. That's a kind of a tracking system. If one person becomes sick, they can check and see who else was there and contact that person and give them health advice. Okay? So the last thing, it's not exactly a safety rule, but we have a attendance roster that includes your phone number and contact information in case one person gets sick. So, safety rules. Let's finally start talking about our class. Our class name is 문화 정책 Seminar, Seminar on Cultural Policy. All right, so we're going to talk about that. The topic of our course is culture and policy. So the first time you start any topic, the first thing to do is to define the terms. What is a definition? And somebody says, oh, culture, that's 문화. Yeah, that's 문화. And policy means 정책. Sure. But what does it mean? What is 문화? Can you explain it in Korean? What is 정책? Yeah, you've had classes. You can probably tell me what 이동수 교수님 or 박종선 교수님 or one of your other professors taught you a meaning of public policy. They gave you a perfect definition. If there is a perfect definition. But they gave you their definition. But my question is, anyway, what does that mean? I'm going to wait a few seconds here. I want you to think. What is the meaning of culture? What is the meaning of policy? Okay, so here's the question. Is that culture? I'm wearing a Hahui Tal lanyard. Not actually a towel, right? Because I'm not putting it over my face. But I've got the Andong Hahui Maul Tal, or wooden mask, as a lanyard. So my question is that culture? Yes or no? Why? Why do you think so? You're going to discover that I'm a little crazy. Yeah, Professor Dickey's crazy. Because I don't accept yes or no answers. For me, the answer is the why. Yes or no is easy, simple, and incomplete. It doesn't explain. I'm cutting the top of my head off, aren't I? Yes or no is usually incomplete. If I pour tea from a Korean ceramic teapot into a Korean ceramic cup, is that good Korean culture? Does it matter if this cup is handmade or is made in a factory by a low-skilled technician, but still make mostly by hand, or is made with a factory machine in Korea? What if it's made by a factory machine in Vietnam or China or Thailand? Is it culture? This is not a real mask. 300-year-old tal is different from a 10-year-old lanyard imitation sold in a gift shop to foreigners. Is it culture? McDonald's. Is it culture? I didn't say good culture or bad culture. Is it culture? All gone. Is it culture? How about this one? Oxford. But not Oxford University. Oxford University Press. It's a book company. It is a magazine, not magazine, journal company, right? Collections of 논문, journal company. Is it culture? Go back down. And we can talk about 정책 or policy. Maybe public policy is fine. What is the meaning of policy? You studied it. Well, I've got some definitions here for you. But before we go to definitions, let's look at some broader ideas. If we talk about culture, we can talk about the classic idea of culture. Okay. What people thought 100 years ago, what is culture? And the same is true in Korea, I think, that the idea of culture in 조선시대 is different from what is the idea of culture in 1960s with Park Chung-hee, is different from the idea of culture in the year 2020. So we have a classic idea, then we have what we call contemporary idea. Maybe we'll translate contemporary as 현대. Okay? Doesn't mean necessarily right now, but in the modern times. And then we can talk about Korea's New Age idea, that is, in the 2020s. The idea is certainly different. Okay, English point. I should be fair. Contemporary often means including today. Contemporary often means including today. But in general, contemporary means around that time. Around nowadays. And I want to say contemporary Korea is kind of modern Korea, which is kind of 1960s until nowadays. And the new idea, which not everybody in Korea agrees with, this new age means that it is very progressive, it is ultra modern, it is super modern, it is the newest thinking, and not everybody is agreeing with it yet, but probably in 3 or 5 years everyone will agree, or maybe in 3 or 5 years everyone will say, no, that was a bad idea. Okay, so New Age means it's very progressive. Not everybody accepts it yet. We're still thinking about it. Okay? Well, we can take a look at some images to think about, is that culture? is that not culture? This video is going to go a little bit more than 35 minutes so that we can look at all these images. We will look at these images again next week in class and discuss these images more. So I'm going to go through them a little bit quickly, but we're probably going to go a little bit more than 35 minutes in this recording. All right. And we will talk a lot about Korea's New Age ideas later in the semester. For example, as we'll see in the third slide, one of the most popular images in what could be called New Age idea. So, identifying culture. I have to reduce this picture a little bit of me, you don't need me, so that we can talk about these more. Do you recognize these classic, traditional images of culture? Who or what is that? Do you know who did it? And this one? Who or what is that? Who did it? What is this? This one might be challenging for you. How about if I say, to be or not to be? That is the question. This one. It happens there are three singers. I think the man's clothing and the woman in the middle are more traditional examples of this traditional form of culture. The woman on the right doesn't seem to fit very well, but yeah. And the picture just below, I think you will recognize. Still, that happens to be an example of a modern culture talking about a classic culture. And the last image, I think you know what this is. Don't worry about who, as an example of classic culture, traditional culture. Some people would say high culture or highbrow. Eyebrows? Highbrow culture. Yes, yes, quite so. It is culture. We can also talk about tangible cultural artifacts. Tangible means you can touch it. You can feel it. I hope you all know what that is. This is my personal image in my mind when I think about a tangible cultural artifact of Korea. Okay? Tangible means you can touch it. Artifact means a thing that exists. You could dig it out of the ground. You could find a physical thing in a museum. Okay? It exists from before. Traditional clothing, although maybe this is a little bit more modern than the true traditional, I'm not quite sure. We have a bridge here which is not the key point. Usually people think about this. When they think about England, they usually think about this. Do you know what this is? And this is part of this building. Do you know what this building is? I'm really sure you all recognize this. tangible cultural artifacts. This one, the wooden pillow, and this one. When I think about tangible cultural artifacts that I can show other people or give to other people, it's this. But in fact, if I'm giving it to someone, it's not truly an artifact because it's not old. It's probably made in a factory, but it's a example. It's a replication. It's a copy of an old thing. And this pot that I showed you earlier is a replica of the traditional Korean system. But it's perfectly usable, and we have used it in my house. It's perfectly functional, but it's not really old. So maybe it doesn't qualify as a cultural artifact. Or maybe it does. It depends how you define it. What we will discover is that very often scholars, professors, disagree about what something means, what something is. And they disagree so they can write more papers. If we all agree, there's nothing to talk about. We also talk about intangible culture. What is intangible? Well, we said tangible is something you can touch. So intangible means you can't touch it. So here's a picture of a popular band. You know this band, this group. If we say it's intangible, we don't mean the boy. We mean the idea behind the music, the behavior. If it's dance, dance is not tangible. Okay? I had today for my lunch. Actually, truly I did. Okay, again, intangible doesn't mean that there isn't something you can touch. It means the culture is the idea behind it, or that it's living and can die. Here's one of my favorite examples of intangible culture in Korea. Now, intangible means it's not the pot. You know who this is? Not the person, the idea, the field of work. This is considered a nationally registered in Korea intangible asset. Want to go out to eat? How about a dance? How about a more formal kind of eating? Now, if we want to talk about lowbrow culture, remember we mentioned highbrow before? Lowbrow culture might be something more commercial, more for the common person to enjoy. You might disagree about this one, and we can discuss that in class. Is it lowbrow? Is it low? Is it commercial? The last question is when we are changing from those classic ideas of culture, or even the lowbrow culture, into the idea that content is culture. Now, I said Korea's New Age idea here, but probably Korea wasn't first, and I will be discussing content as culture in a future lecture. This change from culture as classic idea of culture to this new age idea that content is culture. And I give you two examples here. So that is our second video for week 1 in the class 문화정책 seminar in culture policy. I'll see you in the next video.